Man, when I think about leaders out west, there's a number of guys. And you two are two of the guys that I think on this subject I want to talk about today are two of the guys that are the highest on this level, and it's the subject of joy.
Family, multiplication, restoration. I'm Dahadi Lewis. Join me, Noah Odom and Hayden Radner, as we come to you from Atlanta, St. Louis, and Las Vegas, as we seek to add value to your church planting journey. We'll have real-time, authentic conversations that are relevant to the life of the church planter and pastor. Join us as we hear from leaders of this movement from across North America and discover what it really takes to plant churches everywhere for everyone.
Welcome to another episode of the We Are Send Network podcast. My name is Noah Oldham from August Gate in St. Louis, joined by Hayden Ratner from Walk Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. And because we are here in Nashville, Tennessee for the Southern Baptist Convention annual meeting 2021, have the opportunity to meet with a number of leaders across North America. And today we have special guest Chris Phillips.
What's up?
Journey Point Church in Denver, Colorado. Man, good to see you.
CP. Yeah. Hey, look, I love this because we get to see everybody in the flesh, man.
I have hugged more Baptist men in the last 24 hours than I want to admit my entire life.
Yeah, right.
But it felt good. Good to see people, good to be in the room with people. Yeah. Sure. Man, you're from Tennessee originally.
Yeah, I'm originally from Memphis. My wife and her family are from Knoxville. Yeah. So we actually took some time, kind of came back, saw the family, camped in the Smokies, did the Tennessee deal with all that humidity and everything else.
Yeah. I got to see a baseball game.
I did. Got to see a baseball game. Go Vols. I mean, I'm alumni. I can shout that out.
That's right. You can. That's right. Got to own that. Man, Denver, Colorado. Yeah. What's the weather comparison to Denver and Nashville right now this time of year?
So look, here's the deal. This week particularly, it's hotter in Denver. It's like we're gonna get high 90s, 100, but there's zero humidity. So like I can walk outside with a hoodie on and it's okay. Yeah. I step outside here and it's like I'm sweating within 3 steps. So
Man, when I think about leaders out west, there's a number of guys, and you two are two of the guys that I think on this subject I want to talk about today are two of the guys that are the highest on this level. And it's the subject of joy.
Praise God. That's awesome.
Church planting is a hard thing. Been in it now for 12 years. Our church is 12 years old. Did training and residency before that. A lot of hard seasons leading up to that. And one of the things that church planting can do is it can rip the joy out of your life, out of your family's life. Yeah. I've seen both of you guys just be joy-filled people. Chris, especially, man, having you on today, I want us to talk about joy.
Yeah.
Now, and if anybody knows you, they're around you. I feel like they always see, that's it right there. The laugh, the smile.
Triggered it.
Like you are just, it's bubbling out of you. I feel like you're just a better Christian than me.
No, not at all.
But I want us to talk about this. Yeah. When it comes to joy, is it just something that people have to be natural with? Yeah. Or is it something you have to fight for and work for and develop? What do you think?
Yeah, man, I think it's a both and a little bit, right? So I'll tell it myself a little bit. I cheered in college too, so I've got that kind of rah-rah, joyful attitude at times. Nice. But it's really a learned skill for me because I lean more on the pessimistic side of things. I'm gonna pick apart things. I hate compliments. I don't give them out not even close to the way I need to give out compliments. And so for me, it's kind of a both and. I have some of that naturally. There's obviously the Jesus answers, right? But then it's also a learned skill as well. And so for me, one of the, God's faithful, and so for me, a little bit of the joy is just a constant reminder of God's faithfulness. And if I can't be joyful in that, what am I gonna be joyful in, right? If I'm only joyful in the good times, why in the world would I not be joyful in the bad times as well too? Because I know that's there, right? So for me, a lot of it is God's faithfulness, no matter what, no matter the hard times. But it's also a learned skill for me too, a very learned skill. I wake up every day and one of the things I say is attack the day before the day attacks me, right? And so the day will attack my joy because it's being cut off in traffic, it's the kids, it's church, it's a phone call, it's an email, it's social media. We're not even gonna go there. And but the day will attack my joy first and foremost. And so I have to tell myself to attack the day before all of that attacks me and just reminding myself of God's faithfulness.
Super surprising to me that you're a natural pessimist. I'm wondering about you now, Hayden. What about you, man? Are you naturally pessimistic, or is joy natural? Are you an optimist?
Yeah, I got my wristband on. Optimistic faith right here. It's Taylor.
Man.
Yeah. Ephesians 3:20, brother.
Yeah.
God's able to do more.
Yeah.
And I'm the cup is always half full and even spilling over.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of something that's in me. I feel like that the Lord has shaped that, but it's something I've always just tried to. I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary.
Yeah.
But I do have to fight for that joy in the context of church planting, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do think we have much to be joyful about, much to be humble about along this church planting journey.
Yeah.
And man, that's one thing I have seen and gleaned from you and Libby. I mean, your wife carries that too. She carries that joy as well. And you guys do a great job I really love how you guys lead as a team.
Yeah.
And, Journey Point Church is better because, well, exists because you're there.
It's here.
How'd you land on that name? I love just hearing stories. When it comes to planting churches, like there's that moment where at some point you're like, we gotta pick a name for this baby. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's probably like that phase of like, nah, that's too overly something. But like, how'd you land on Journey Point?
Like worst part of church planting, right? Because it's like naming a kid. It's like they're stuck with this for a really long time.
Yeah.
So for me, Matthew 10:39 is a verse for me. For anyone who finds his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it.
So good.
And so that to me kind of epitomizes a little bit of a journey, right? We go on a journey from, okay, it's all about me, and then to, no, it's all about the Lord. And so a lot of our life is journeys, right? Obviously you have journeys, in mountain climbing and hiking and skiing and all these types of things, right? So that's there in Denver. But honestly, we decided all that before we even moved to Denver because of the aspect of, I can come up to you and say, man, tell me your story. What's your journey? What's your journey been like in any type of way? And so the point comes from, there will be at some point, you have to make that decision what you're going to do with the person and work of Jesus. And so no matter where your journey is from, no matter where your journey has been, you'll have a point where you've got to make that decision. And and honestly, that to me goes back to joy too, because for every mountaintop, there's a valley, right? And it's in the valley where everything grows green, right? And so that's where the rain, that's where the water, that's where the soil is collecting, right? And so even when I'm in the valleys, I've got to recognize that God's doing a work right there. And so I need to find joy in the work that he is doing, even in the darker times, even in the desperate times, even in the times where he feels distant and far away. And so, so that mountaintop valley journey that we're on. And so that was kind of what we went with. It's funny though. I tell a lot of church members, at some point you just got to pick it and go.
You got to
It's good.
So we picked it and went.
If there's a .com still available or something, that's probably it.
You got to go after and get it.
So I'm interested a little bit more about both of y'all and your personalities, but really when it comes to your spiritual gifts. So I see this optimism, I see this faith. It's a learned skill. It's very natural. It comes from like spiritual gifts. Gift of faith, is that one of your spiritual gifts?
Yeah, that's one of my gifts.
Yeah, are there any other ones you feel like really feed into that thing of?
Yeah, I think there's some that follow that, and I wouldn't want to get too controversial here, but I think that there's still some prophetic gifts that I think function, and I think in all church planters in some way it's this ability to be able to say, okay, God's given me vision. God's given me on-time word and vision in the context of his word, never outside of it. But I hear my spiritual gifts affirmed from others, leaders in my life that I trust, to say, man, there's a prophetic gift that you carry, or a gift of faith that you carry, and I think that we want to try to hone our skills and our gifts and double down on them, use them. Like, if this is something that God's gifted me with,
that's really good.
How can I use that to give it away to others or to help other people see it? Wow. That's something for me. Love to hear kind of some of that Chris sees.
Yeah, from an APES, I'm very apostolic, but administration's high for me, which kind of goes back to the learned skills. So I'm really one of the most boring guys you'll ever meet. Like, I'm rigid, disciplined, structured, and that's actually not out of a strength, that's out of a weakness.
Wow.
And so for me, like I'm rigid in the times I wake up and the times I go to bed, because when I fall off a little bit, I'm weak. Like, I'm super weak. And so there was a time period in my life where I was really prideful in that. Yeah, man, I can wake up early. And, haven't missed a quiet time in this amount of time. And then I realized it was because of how weak I am when I do miss those things that I'm there. And so I know that if I'm not rigid and making myself like, one of the first things I do when I wake up, I have, Craig Rochelle he's kind of got an I will statements, or I forget what he calls them on his, you know what I'm talking about, where he walks through. And so I walk by and I wake up, I talk about attacking the day before the day attacks me. I am first Christ before I am anything else. I'm gonna love Libby with my entire heart today. My kids are gonna see a picture of Jesus through me today. God's gifted me in this way, and so I'm gonna use it. And so like, I just remind myself of those things in the morning. So that kind of administration thing runs high for me in that area so that I can really do it. Wow. So when I go on vacation and things is actually when I'm the weakest because it's like I'm out of my rhythm.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but so that gift comes through the brightest, even in the joy of finding what God is doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. One gift that I've found in Noah is just you have an incredible teacher gift.
Oh man.
Like it's something that you carry, it's something that you walk in. Even if you're just having a side conversation, I find that you're not even trying, but you're teaching. And I'm grateful to be around you. I feel like I'm better when I'm around you.
Man, I appreciate that.
One thing I was gonna add too, unless you're gonna share it.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, when you're talking to Noah, it's just you're talking to. You're not talking to anybody else in the room.
That's
and
good.
And
That's good, man.
sometimes it's like big, joyful, bubbly people, personalities that I could be talking to everybody in the room because I'm happy and everything, right?
Right. Yeah.
And but
You're centered.
everything, you're centered. There's nobody else in that conversation, and that's one thing. And people find that joyful, right? Because I feel like I matter in a conversation to you. Yeah,
Wow.
So good. One thing that I've heard about Chris, just in different circles, is that he has this ability. We're bragging on each other. We're honoring each other. I love this. But is that I'm talking about him right here to you. He has this ability to catalyze and develop partners for his city, for his church that God's called him to plant. Man, talk to us about. I mean, church planters are going to be watching this, listening to this, and without a doubt, there's some here in Nashville.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm hungry. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's looking to potentially add another partner that's life-giving and can help move the mission forward. What are some things when you think about partnership development that come to your mind, and maybe even some strategic ways for guys to think about partnership?
Yeah, you know, I think the first step in any partnership development for me is loving the city that God has called me to. Right? And you know, I don't mean just like, yeah, we're going to Denver and it's really cool and doing it, but like I bleed for Denver.
So good.
Because if I am not bleeding for that community, that specific community that God's called me to, I probably don't have stories to talk about. Wow. And if I don't have stories to talk about, why would anyone want to buy into believing that I'm going to be a good, faithful partner for them? And so diving into, know every nuanced detail of that city. I mean, like, we are 43% master's or doctorate level degree. Average age is 33.5. There's 2 kids per home. It's the wealthiest zip code in the state of Colorado. Right now, we're the most vaccinated zip code in Colorado. You know, I mean, like these things. And so it's like, they know that, like, man, he bleeds for it. And I think a lot of that comes back to even the theology of place. I think we've really gotten away from that theology of place that we, you know, man, like, if you're a church planter and you're watching this, like, there's no next step. Like, your next and only step is planting and rooting your life in that city.
Wow.
And so don't even be thinking about what a next step would be. Your next step is, I am here until I'm done. We say we're mile high until we die. And and so, because that's catchy and we can put a hashtag on it. But so I think it begins there, because if that doesn't bleed through in a conversation to potential partners, then they're not gonna, and if I don't know my city, how am I gonna know what to do and how to respond and what to work there? And so then the second thing I would say is, you are kingdom-minded and we are kingdom-minded, but sometimes church planters aren't as kingdom-minded as they think they are.
That's right.
We're only Journey Point, Denver, Colorado minded, right? But if I've got a church coming from St. Louis, I actually want those people to leave being better in St. Louis than they were when they left.
Right.
And so I need to make sure that partnership is two-way. And I need to tell them up front, my goal is not to have your people come out here and to just grab your resources and to have them be the hands and feet of Jesus in our city. That is a goal, and that is something that we're gonna do. My goal is for them to return to St. Louis and to love your church and your community the same way that we love our church and our community. So again, it goes back to that theology of place. And so yeah, that's
really good.
I think those have been the biggest conversations for me in partnership development. And that's where I've seen planters kind of go wrong, you know, in terms of just like, hey, we need some hands. And I mean, there's the organizational things, there's some ideas and all that kind of stuff, follow up with them. How many planters do you know that don't send out monthly videos to their churches, right? We have 4K cameras in this little device we have in our back pocket all the time.
Wow.
Throw a video up, show the community, hey, because of your faithfulness and generosity, this is what is going on here in our city. And so, yeah, we've done it for a long time.
Knowing your city, it reminds me of, I think, one of the greatest books for any church planter to begin preaching as they're casting vision for a team is the book of Jonah.
Oh, man.
Because Jonah goes to a city, and he doesn't love that city. He doesn't get to know that city. He wants to run from it, stay away from it, only goes because God. And even at the end, it ends in this weird place. God not only knows how many people, he knows how many cattle are in the city.
Yeah, right.
And Jonah's up there, you know, pouting. And I think what you said there is like, God knows those details. He wants his leader to know those details so that they'll own that. Dude, mile high until we die.
Yeah, I mean,
bro, that's really good.
Jesus wept for Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Like he was broken because he was there in front of them and they didn't know it.
Yeah.
Am I not weeping for my city? Like, do I not die for it's not about a church plant. It's the people of the city, right? That's what we're looking for.
Talk about how Denver really became that city for you. You know, you're here in Tennessee, Memphis, then you're Oval, you love it. Your wife's from the area. Where does Denver, Colorado come from?
Man, we're minding our own business at a church in Memphis called Bellevue Baptist Church. Was at the Southern Baptist Convention in 16 in your city.
Little small church, you know.
Sorry, and I don't know if you've heard of it. People out west are like, I got no idea. But we're minding our business at Southern Baptist Convention, and a guy named Ben Mandrell, who's over Lifeway now, was a church planter in the city. And Ben didn't know me from Adam, man, but he was doing what every faithful church planter should. He was trying to get as many people to come to the western part of the United States to plant churches as he could. So he said, hey, we need more leaders like you to come plant churches. You in? And I laughed at him. I was like, you are out of your mind, man. Whoa. I'm loving my life. I'm doing all this. But then,
what were you doing at Bellevue?
I was over leadership development. I was over our young couples, and then I kind of administrated our recreation ministry.
Wow.
That's great. And so I loved it. My family's there. We love it. It's a great church. Dr. Gaines is, I mean, he's fire in so many different ways. Spiritual man of God, Donna, is amazing. So we had no plan to do that, but, you know, God has plans. And so I told him, I said, I tell you what, I'll pray about it. And man, we just prayed, and God began ripping us. You know, and so there's probably some people that are even not church planters watching this that God may be independently working on. And my deal would be to just pray. So we visited the city, and I'm not gonna lie to you, we went out there and we didn't like it because like Denver's great. You can go skiing, you can do all these things and like so much to do. But we were in all of the areas that didn't fit us. So that place wasn't happening.
Right.
But then our Sin City missionary, who I give all the credit in the world to, his name's Dave Howarth, knows the city better than anybody I know.
Great.
And knows how to put people in places where they fit, right? And our community, I mean, it is tailor-made for my wife and I. And so
it's great.
When we drove on to that community, the diversity, the family orientation, all of the things that were there, it just said tailor-made for Chris and Libby Phillips. And as audibly as God could, he let us know, not only was Denver the place, but it was that specific community that we were to root our lives in.
So good.
And so, yeah, man. And so I would say date the city. Like we were there dating it, right? We used,
date the city.
You had to date your wife, you had to do everything else. It's like, hey, I got to see if this is a fit. And so we went on some extended dates, and on the last night of that date, man, God just showed us above and beyond. It was Denver.
Yes on the table.
We did. And I'm we're open to whatever God ever says, right?
Of course.
But we're mile high till we die. I mean, it's that city until. So I got neighbors. There's not a single neighbor. Colette and Pat and Griselda and Alba and Fred and Becca and their kids and Danny and Eric and Joe and Alif and John and Carlos and Mary and AK and Sarah and Mel and Chris and Danny and Ryan and Bruce and Aunt Julie. Not a single one of them know Jesus. I can't think about the next thing until they know Jesus.
Gosh.
And so like, shame on anybody for thinking about the next thing. Because if I leave that, there's not a Chris and Libby coming in place of that.
Wow.
And so for me, so it's steward your place. And so that's it. that bleeds down in us. Yeah.
Man, that's good. I'm hearing a lot of things
Amazing.
out of what you're saying, I think, that feed into that joy. And one of those is the passion for the glory of Christ in these people's lives.
Yeah.
Hey, we got, before pandemic hit, which has been a hard season for so many people, not everybody. Some people had a really great season during pandemic, but a lot of people struggled. But even before that, in our church celebrated 10 years in 2019.
Great.
And you think that would be like, we're in this amazing place celebrating 10 years, but there's a lot of hardship going on. And I remember getting my team together, and I got pieces of paper out, and I said, everybody, we're gonna write down the spiritual fruit, the fruit of the Spirit. And I said, what are the ones you think that our church needs to fight for in this next season?
Wow.
And to a person, the number one was joy.
Wow.
Amazing.
It was joy. We need to fight for it. We need to pray for it. Wow. And then God gave us pandemic the next year.
Yeah.
Really?
And during that, what we saw was we had to fight for the only thing that really mattered.
Yeah.
It wasn't about us being able to meet to have a service.
Right.
It was about this, we gotta reach this community.
Yeah, right.
Like, these people aren't gonna hear Jesus if we escape to our houses and don't find ways through technology and whatever we can to get the message out. And I think what you just shared there was, you named people's names. I saw you getting choked up, and that's real. That's not manufactured. And
That's so good.
And what an encouraging word for those who are struggling right now for joy.
Yeah.
To be able to say, get back to the basics.
Yeah.
Every morning when you wake up, you may need to remind yourself, like, this is the call.
That's right.
This is why you're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I once heard that acronym for the word joy, right? Jesus, others, yourself.
Yeah.
And that's just what I heard Chris just model for us. It's it's Christ first.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about others. That's my calling. And Lord, take care of me in the process. And He'll do that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that rootedness helps you win the day. Some of our joy gets robbed because we're thinking too far ahead. I'm not even guaranteed that. Just win today.
Yeah,
Put the effort in, leave the results to the Lord. And that helps with the joy. And just going, hey, if meeting my neighbor and getting their name is my win for the day, let me find joy in that. If sharing something with them is joy, let me find joy in that.
I once heard some great leaders say, don't worry about tomorrow. It has enough trouble of its own.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Matthew 6, something in there. Dude, that's so good, man.
The goat.
The goat, Jesus himself.
I'm not even guaranteed tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So find joy today.
But I pray that there's a lot more tomorrows for you, Chris, in Denver, man, because and I want to see God multiply your leadership, bro. So thankful for all the ways you pour out to the network, not only your city, but all across North America, and expecting great things for the days ahead.
Hey, you guys are crushing this, man.
Praise
so
God, man.
love it. This is so good for so many guys. I want you to know that. Like, I speak for all of them. Show them some love. This is so good for them. You're answering questions they're asking that people don't know they're asking. So thank you guys for pouring in.
Man, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of the We Are Send Network podcast. As always, please subscribe, share this with your friends. We want to see a movement of church planting happen everywhere for everyone in North America. And that begins by us just getting the word out, putting the message, casting the vision. And so help us do that. If you got any questions for us you'd like us to answer on the podcast, you can get a hold of us. You can text the words Send Network to 888-123. That's Send Network, 888-123. You can check us out at sendnetwork.com. Hey, we hope you guys have learned a lot. Pursue joy, crush the day before it crushes you. And until next time, we are Send Network.
You have been listening to We Are Send Network, a resource of the North American Mission Board. For more information about today's podcast and other relevant resources, visit sendnetwork.com.